My next guest is an undefeated middleweight contender from Tennessee. He's a very bad man. I've been following his career for a couple years, so he's a longtime friend of the show, but first-time guest. And if you're driving your car 2 weeks from now and you're listening to this, you better still pull over and clap. We'll know if you didn't. His name is Torrez the Punisher Finney. Mr. Finney, welcome, man. It's an honor to have you pull up. This is a great opportunity.
Man, it's an honor to be on the show, man. I've watched a few episodes of the Mom's Basement MMA, and I had a few friends on here, Moon Cosme, Solomon Renfro. So I've definitely paid attention, and I've watched some other guys on this broadcast. So it's been pretty cool, man. So I'm excited to finally be on here and have an opportunity to be able to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Well, likewise, the feeling's mutual. I remember the very first time I watched you fight, it was at VFC 84. We're throwing it back a couple of years.
Oh, man, yes. I know exactly what car that was. Yeah.
That was something else, man. And I remember that you were an amateur still, fighting for an amateur title for a smaller regional promotion. And since then, you've been on Fight Pass. You fought for Jorge Masvidal's promotion. And a bunch of other things have taken place since then. It's just been so wild to see, Torrez. And I wanted to ask you first and foremost, you're wearing the shirt right now, like your gym, Agoge Combatives. I think of you, I think of Trevor Peak, but I know there's way more people there. I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about what is your gym like? Who are the people that are there that are helping you mold into the fighter that you've become over the past couple of years?
Well, first, I want to definitely start off with my coaches, man. When I first got here, they helped mold me into obviously I already had the wrestling background, but obviously a wrestler learning BJJ, learning not to do certain bad things. Matt Harris has been very vital to my career. Matt Harris, Sterling Peace, and Larry Scott. So they always be in my corner for all my fights, but. Those three guys have molded me into, the fighter I am today. What I look for when I pick guys up and take them down, what I look for with pressure, what I look for striking from Coach Larry, and the skillness and stuff from Matt and Sterling. And they have helped mold me into the fighter I am, and they help me see the things that I see when I fight inside the cage. I feel like I have a pretty good fight IQ when I'm in there. So it comes from those guys, and training partners, I've had a bunch of really good training partners. Trevor Peak, with no question. I mean, if you're talking about trying to get a dog round in, man, just go for the small with Trevor Peak. You'll know if you're a dog or not. Man, I love those rounds. And then Garrett Gross. Garrett Gross, he's fought on the Contender Series. Garrett Gross, he's fought in Bellator. And actually, congratulations, he just got married this past weekend. So me and Garrett we've had a lot of dog rounds, and man, he helps me out a lot in all areas, helping me build up my MMA mindset. He's been in the game. I mean, he's had over nearly 30 fights, so he has a lot of experience. Logan Neal, he has a lot of fight experience, and then there's a lot of other guys, man. Zane Burton, who's coming up. Brevin Sullivan is another amateur that's coming up. Those guys going to be turning pro soon. So we got a lot of guys, man. And then you got to also attest to the guys that just only do jiu-jitsu or only just do striking that can give you really good rounds, but they're not fighting MMA, but it can give you really good rounds in that certain area. So there's a lot of guys like that, man. And I think all those guys helped me in my career.
And I specifically wanted to ask you about your gym, because I also know that you go across the country and you train at other big gyms. And I know there's etiquette to this question. So without what will limit it, I'm not going to ask you any specifics. I'm not going to ask you about any names, but I will ask you this question. This question I'm comfortable asking. When you go to some of these other gyms and you're putting in rounds with UFC guys or Bellator guys, whatever the case may be, do you feel like, have there been instances where you may have surprised some people? Because I look at you and I'm like, oh yeah, there's this wrestler dude that does a little bit of MMA that comes in. We'll bring him in because you're about to fight a wrestler. And have you surprised some people without naming any names?
Yes, I don't like to toot my own horn, but I have surprised some people. Yes. Yeah. It's gotten to the point to where they're questioned, how long I've actually been doing MMA. So, because this is being honest. Like, I had my first fight in October of 2020, and I'm about 2.5 years. October is in a few more months, so I'm about to hit 3 years. So I haven't been doing MMA relatively not that long. I was only amateur for a year, and after that, this is my second year as pro. So, yeah, I mean, it's not been that long, and it really surprises guys. And I always tell people this, I have good wrestling accolades. I mean, I only wrestled 1 year in college, but I won 2-time state champion. I was 9th in the nationals. I got recruited by a lot of different colleges for wrestling. I just didn't choose that route. I chose the college football route.
Right.
So I might not have the prestige accolades like you might see a Division I All-American or All-American national champion. I don't have those accolades, but I have wrestled with a lot of those guys, and I shock a lot of those guys. They're like, "You've wrestled what? You just only wrestled mainly in high school." Like, I was a really good wrestler coming up, and I actually wrestled at a lot of different colleges when I was getting recruited. And I'll test some of this stuff back to when I was in high school. There's this guy named Nate Carr, who was a multi-time junior college national champion from in Iowa. And if anybody know Nate Carr Sr., he was the Olympian, and his son David Carr. So those guys, they would come back and do some camps, and I would do a lot of camps for those guys, and they helped me build a little bit of my wrestling game to what it is now. And yeah, I just feel like I'm a diamond in the rough. I feel like a lot of people don't really know much about me, but I have the skill sets to compete with a lot of these guys. You just don't know yet until you actually see it. You're like, man, and I'm short. I got long arms, strong. So I have a few different attributes to me that help me out.
The facts will show you. You look at who all the top people are in MMA, who the champions are, and what do they have in common? Most of them, not all, but most of them have a wrestling base. Most of them. With that being said, it's like the most important discipline, I feel, to master in MMA. But just because you're a good wrestler, that doesn't automatically make you a good MMA fighter. It complements it, right? And I was hoping you could expand on that a little bit, because I feel like a lot of people who don't fight, or a lot of people in the media, may not necessarily understand that there's a difference. And who better to speak to that topic than you?
Yeah, there is a difference. You can be a really good wrestler, but that doesn't mean you will be a really good MMA fighter. I have seen that actually happen a lot. We've had a few guys come here. They're really good wrestlers. Then they get punched in the face one time, and their wrestlers no better than a freaking high schooler. So it changes when you start getting punched in the face. And heck, you would think like, oh man, like I'm accustomed to that grind. I'm accustomed to being hard nosed, but not every wrestler is okay with getting punched in the face. So it's a different component to grappling. Like, for instance, it's no different than BJJ. You can be a black belt in BJJ, but what they say when you start getting hit, you get hit, you turn to a brown. You get hit, you turn to a purple. You get hit, you turn to a blue. Like, it starts. You don't grapple the same. So you don't wrestle the same when fists, knees, leg kicks, elbows, all that get thrown into play. So I just feel, I'm just blessed that I was able to adapt. Now, I will say, before I got into MMA, because when I was playing football, I had started boxing because I had got injured, and I was just boxing, and I only boxed for about 3 months. So it allowed me to try to start developing some things with my hands. And then some of the guys at the boxing gym was like, man, you should come to this gym called Agoge. And I go to this gym called Agoge, and well, I mean, they already fit what I was doing, because it's a jiu-jitsu gym at first, and we still are a jiu-jitsu gym. We just really transitioned a lot to MMA now, but I was already a wrestler. Now let's learn how to do some jiu-jitsu. I already okay, not necessarily okay, but I could take a punch in the face. I just did boxing, so like just mold it all together and learn a few leg kicks, learn a few knees. You're ready to go, and it didn't take me long after that. So it's been a journey, man, but. Yeah, not every wrestler is meant to fight MMA. It's not that easy. So anybody that's a wrestler, it's the best background to have, but it doesn't mean you're going to be the best fighter.
What was the biggest challenge about learning the MMA ropes for you? Like, you look at you have a college football pedigree, you have the wrestling pedigree, like you're a freak athlete. I mean, it's pretty obvious just by looking at you, but all of those intangibles, like I mentioned before, like MMA, it's like the most difficult sport I can think of. There are so many things that you have to learn. It's grueling mentally. It's different. It's a different level of intensity physically. Like, there's so many things about it. It's a thinking man's game, and you really have to true to the name of the sport, mixed martial arts, you have to blend so many things together physically and mentally in order to do this. What's been the most challenging part about picking up MMA in your experience?
I would say probably maybe pacing. In wrestling, you gotta remember, man, and a little bit in football, you just go hard for those short bursts. Wrestling matches mainly are only 2 minutes. Obviously, in college it's 3-2-2, but in high school it was 2-2-2. So it's only 2 minutes. It's not that long, and it's bursts. It's hard. You're going, and it's about that pacing because now, even though I know amateur fights are 3 minutes, but you still got to pace yourself pretty smart. You got to know when to explode. You got to know when to lay off the pedal. I can still keep the pressure on you. I can still keep hitting you. I can still continue to attack you, but I got to know when I'm doing it at 100%. Then I got to know when I'm doing it at 60. Then I got to know when I'm doing it at 40, because I got to use some of that stuff to set up other things. And mainly that's the main part about MMA is like getting that experience to understanding, okay, feeling comfortable in certain situations. Main thing for most wrestlers is what? We don't like being on our back because we was always taught never be on your back. Heck, my wrestling coach used to tell me, you better not sleep on your back. You better sleep on your belly. So like I used to always sleep on my belly because of that. Like I never be on your back. So, and then the thing is, you start jiu-jitsu, you give up your back, guess what? You're getting rear naked choked every time. So it's a different component, but I will say one of the things that does help, obviously I played football and then also wrestled, but the wrestling aspect of being in that individual competition. So you understand, and then me being able to wrestle in a lot of big time matches and big time tournaments and things of that nature. Yes, every fighter still getting nervous. Don't be fooled. Every fighter gets nervous. It's you going in there in the unknowing, but having that experience in that one-on-one competition, especially like my state championship when I'm wrestling on the mat in front of thousands of people, your whole high school comes to watch you, you're already nervous. I'm only 15 at the time. I'm like, oh, this is scary. So you have to like overcome that type of stuff. And now, I was actually did an interview yesterday, and I said, man, the most nervous I've been in a fight up to this point was actually my pro debut, because I fought in front of my hometown. I had my hometown. I went back to Macon, Georgia, where I'm from when I was born, and I fought in front of all my friends, family, my whole school. Man, we packed that place out. Man, it was packed. And yeah, when you're the main guy that everybody's there to watch, and you're your hometown, man, you can't come up short. So that was the most nerve wracking, if I had to say of anything, as a fighter. But yeah.
Undefeated amateur mixed martial artist, undefeated professional mixed martial artist. You're five fights into this. You are making it look so easy, and I know in reality it's anything but. And I know that there's so much training, there's so much sacrifice that goes into putting on these performances. And I wanted to ask you, even though you make it look easy, like, who has been the guy, whether it goes all the way back to your amateur career or in your pro career, who's been the guy that you had to dig the deepest for, whether it was mentally or physically? I know you're making it look easy, but surely there's had to have been at least one guy out of all these guys that you fought that you really had to like dig deep in to get a W off of.
Well, so I know some might say my most competitive fight, even though I still won every round, that 30-27, I dominated, cut him open, was my last fight, Caleb Crump, who was savvy. I mean, you got to remember, style makes matchup, and I'm a big time grappler. He does a lot of grappling, ADCC stuff. But I wouldn't necessarily say he was my toughest opponent. I'm going to go back amateur. And he hasn't fought since, and I'm actually a little slightly disappointed he hasn't. But his name is Thailand Mattress, TK Mattress. TK is a tough cat. He's from South Carolina. He's one of the only ones that really trash talked me. So he trash talked me, tried to get in my head and that type of stuff. I still won every round of that fight, but I was so big into trying to finish him as fast. I gassed myself out after the second round. And I was still going. I'm still pushing. I'm still explosive in those later rounds. But it was a 5-round amateur fight, 5 3-minute rounds. And, man, I was really trying to take him out. And he just kept coming, man. He was tough. TK was tough. And if I had to say anybody, I feel like TK, as an amateur, was my toughest fight. And I fought some tough guys as a pro. I fought Ivan Batnich, who's 5-1 from California. Then I fought Caleb Crump, 5-3. He's beat a lot of really good guys. So, and then heck, I even say Wes McCracken. Wes McCracken comes from Wonder Boy's gym. His record might be upside down, but if anybody actually go and watch film, 2 of his losses literally come from he was winning the fight, but he had cuts. So he had two losses from just cuts that he had on himself. So, so I will say that I've had some tough fights as a pro, but I would say my toughest one was as my amateur TK. I still give props to him for that.
I feel like you're right now at this point in your career at a very pivotal moment. You have 5 victories under your belt right now, but you have a unique skill set and you're on the radar. And I kind of wanted to ask you and peel the curtain back just a little bit. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it or not. So if we're not allowed to talk about it, I'll edit it out. But when Bo Nickel was getting ready to fight, like they hit you up, like the UFC, like specifically inquired about your availability. And, obviously that doesn't work out. They pick up a different matchup and Val Woodburn is the guy that the call. But I kind of wanted to ask you, knowing you're so close, what is compelling you to fight on August 4th for Nashville Underground? Because there are a lot of guys in your position that wouldn't have taken this fight. They'd look at this and be like, you know what, it's diminishing returns. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. I'm just going to sit tight and wait for the UFC to call me again. Like, what is making you go back out there and fight in August?
Well, that's the thing, you have to continue to attack opportunities. And I feel like this is an opportunity that I couldn't pass by. We knew Nashville, UFC Nashville was coming to, UFC was coming to Nashville on August 5th. We knew that about 2 months ago. We was actually, the plan was for one of my teammates, was Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek was supposed to fight in Jacksonville and potentially try to get back on a Nashville card, because we're close to Nashville. He would have packed that place. That would have been awesome. Obviously, he came up short. But the purpose is to get a show on the day before the UFC Nashville to get a lot of the UFC staff. Hopefully, we're trying to get some matchmakers to get them there live to watch me live. And to watch other up-and-comers live. And I think that this was a great opportunity for me to take that chance. I mean, no better way than try to fight in front of the UFC themselves. And this is like if you want to say in a way, like almost like a contender series type show. This is something that I feel like there's a big opportunity. And I do feel like my resume so far, because compared to the guys, especially at the middleweight that they already have on a contender series, my resume is already better than a bunch of those guys. I already know that for a fact. But no better way than put a nail in the coffin than to fight in front of them on August 4th in Nashville, Tennessee, where they will be at. So, but this is the thing about the fight game. You got to continue to take risk. And I feel like, this is just a calculated risk. It's a risk, but it's calculated. So we understand the job ahead of us, and we will go in there and get the job done. So the goal is to come out after August 4th, 6-0 and 6-0 with another finish on our belt.
Your opponent, his name is LJ Porti. I hope I said his name correctly, but I look at this guy, you're talking about a guy with maybe 4 times the experience that you have. That was the first thing that kind of like stuck in my brain, is looking at this guy like, oh wow, like this guy's the real deal. He goes out there, he may not get the result every single time, but he's a fighter. He goes out there and he's not afraid to fight anybody. That's the thing I glean from this guy. What is it that you see about Porti that makes him a dangerous opponent in your mind?
Well, LJ, he's a formidable opponent. 14 fights. He's had a lot of experience. He's 28. What you have to look at is anytime that any of these guys, like you got to say with this much experience, you have to take in respect to him. Yes, his record is 500. I know he's 7-7, but you have to respect that he's been out there multiple times. He's beaten guys. Yes, he has some losses, but he's got a lot of wins. I don't have 7 wins. I don't even have that many pro fights. So you have to go out there and respect them at all costs. And, I was talking to one of my coaches. These are the fights that you actually got to be mindful of. You'll be surprised, but these are the harder fights. These are harder than sometimes the 5-0s, 5-1s, 5-3 type fights, because these guys, in a way, they don't have much to lose, because they've already felt it on different occasions. So they're like, I'm trying to give you your first one. And I just got to keep my mindset. I treat every opponent as the same. You know, I will say one of my most lopsided wins was the Jake Zog. He's on my record. He's 1-12. But people got to understand this about Jake Zog. We had went through like 30 guys in there at that time, and he was the only one that we had to get somebody because I had sold like $6,000-7,000 in tickets, and I had to get somebody. Right. So he was, and it was at heavyweight. So I was around, like, I was trying to get ready to cut the 185. So I'm at 211. I had to put on a weight jacket to make the Tennessee required weight. You have to be over 225. So I had to get on the scale for that. He come in and he actually had to cut to get to 265. So I'm going against a heavyweight, and I'm not even close to his weight class. And I know his record was 1-12, but we had to get somebody, you know, so I had to take whatever was out there. I mean, we had to get somebody. And this has actually been the way it is for my entire career, man. I have been, since my first pro fight, it's been very rare I've actually had a full 8-week fight camp against one person. And I would say the longest fight camp I've actually had against anybody was actually my last fight with Crump, when that was 5 weeks. You know, everybody else has been short notice. Well, not necessarily short notice, but 3 weeks, 2 weeks, you know, when we finally find the opponent. So it has been a little tough in that regards, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I got to get fights, and it's tough on me because sometimes I don't know what I'm preparing for. I'm a big film watcher. You know, that's the football player in me. I love watching film. So I watch a lot of film. I study a lot of my opponents, and I like to keep my eyes on these guys. So, but yeah, you know, I definitely respect LJ. You know, I'm preparing for him as he was my greatest opponent ever. So he will get the best Torrez Finney on that day.
On August 5th, if you go out there, you do your job like you say you're going to, that puts you at a 6-0 record. And at that point, my hope for you is you would either get a straight call up to the UFC, like on a short notice, or perhaps compete on the Dana White Contender Series. I know that's kind of TBD and out of your hands right now. And even if you could talk about it, I know that's bad juju, but I'll just simply ask you this. In your mind, with a hypothetical record of 6-0, like, is that enough in your mind? Like, do you feel like you're ready at this point in your professional career to like make that leap up and to compete with these big boys in the middleweight for division of the UFC?
Yes, I do. And that's another thing for me is I do feel like regardless, I mean, yes, I definitely want to make it to the UFC. But I feel like I can fight in any of these big promotions. I feel like I'm worthy, especially making it to 6-0. I do feel like that my path, experience, the training that I've put in, I wouldn't say this if I didn't. And I know training is different. I know sparring is different, but I wouldn't say this if I would go to these other gyms and be able to compete or not. I would say sometimes dominate some of these guys that are on the big shows that we're seeing watch on TV, that we're seeing watching pay-per-views. So like, I wouldn't say that if I didn't think I was ready, but I'm saying that because I do think I am ready. And I do believe that I am on that level. And I do believe that one of these big shows, whoever gets me, you will get a treat. You will get something special. I think I bring something completely different to the game. And yeah, I know sometimes some people like to bring up my height inside the middleweight division, but I feel like that's a strength in me. You know, people, when I grew up wrestling, and I know wrestling is different from fighting, but I used to love the tall guys. I know a lot of short people don't like the tall guys, but I love the tall guys because mainly for me, my arm length is actually just as long as theirs. I have a 76 wingspan, 76-inch wingspan, you know, and I'm only 5'7". So I have longer arms than taller guys, but I'm also just as strong, if not stronger. Then I have a lower center of gravity. I love tall guys. If you give me a tall guy, give me that guy every day. If you give me a guy 6'2", 6'3", yes. I actually, you know, LJ, he's actually 5'8", 5'9". This is the shorter guys is the one that used to actually give me some problems when I used to wrestle. So like, I actually didn't like the short guys too much. So this will be actually an intriguing matchup, but man, you know, I feel like I fit perfectly in the middleweight division. You know, I cut a good bit of weight. You know, I walk around 215 to 220 outside of camp. So when I get my weight down, I'm ready to go. So I just think I'm ready. I really do believe I'm ready for one of those big shows. UFC for sure, Bellator for sure, PFL if they ever get a middleweight division for sure. So, man, I do believe I'm one of the best middleweights in the world, man, and um, you know that really needs to be on one of the big promotions. And I'm not saying that because I say that I deserve it. I feel like I've worked hard, but I just say that from uh, what the work I put in. You know, I'm not just saying that like, oh, Torrez Finney, and I deserve this, I deserve that. I don't deserve anything. You know, you get everything from hard work. Everything's come from how hard you work. And I believe from the hard work that I've put in daily, that one of these big shows, I feel like I will be on. And my goal is to be on one of these big shows by the end of the year. I have a goal every year. Every year is to get 3 fights. You know, this is my second fight. So hopefully the third fight is on one of the bigger shows, or we fight one more regionally to get on the bigger show. So, yes, sir. So that's the goal.
Well, I'm not a fight promoter and I'm definitely not an MMA manager, but I will tell you, I do want to see you fight Bo Nickel one day. I want to see it. And I wanted to kind of ask you, like, I don't have a problem asking you because, you know, it's the time has come and gone and they have their other plans and stuff for him. He's probably going to fight a ranked opponent here pretty soon. But in your opinion, what is it going to take to beat somebody like Bo Nickel? Like, you look at him, you look at guys like Hamzat Chimaev, and they bring a lot to the table. I mean, we understand what makes them so good, but in your mind, what would it take to hang an L on either one of those guys? Because I feel stylistically they're a little bit similar.
Yes. So the way to beat, so I ain't gonna lie to you, Hosman is my favorite fighter right now in the UFC, current fighter in the UFC. So I love his style. His style is exactly how I would love my style to be. But the thing is with like a guy like Hosman and Bo, you cannot be scared to grapple. So I think the mistake that a lot of people make when they're fighting these guys is, I'm not going to grapple. Let me keep it only in one area. It's MMA. You cannot keep it in one area. You have to. I'm going to tell you something that'll shock a wrestler. All right. This would shock me if anybody did it to me. Be honest with you. I give it to you. Like, go for it. I dare you. But shooting on a wrestler when you're not a wrestler. All right. Keeping that, oh man, he shot on me. Oh man, wait a minute. All right, fine. I'm keeping that intact. While that guy might be the better striker, but yet you're the better wrestler, but the striker is shooting on the wrestler. Wait, man, where does that come from? You know, keeping that element of MMA, keeping that element of I'm trying to think of the word. Disguise, basically. Yeah, the element of surprise. Yes, like I'm trying to surprise you. You don't know if I'm going to shoot on you. You don't know if I'm going to attempt to take you down. Not being scared to grapple. And I feel like, you know, I've wrestled with a lot of high-level guys. I have. And I've done jiu-jitsu with a lot of high-level guys. I know some of the world's best. I wouldn't be scared to grapple with either one of them, you know. So that's where I think the matchups would be really fun, because I wouldn't be scared to wrestle with Bo. And I wouldn't be scared to surely wrestle with a Hosman either. And I feel like my jiu-jitsu is just as good as both of those guys. So it would just come down to, you know, striking, which is an area that I see. The thing is, a lot of people don't see my striking because I don't utilize it. But I don't have to utilize it because, I mean, I just have a one pathway. Like, out of 10 MMA fights that I've been in, amateur and pro, I've only been hit in the face 3 times. So why not keep going to, like, I'm not going to just risk anything, especially on the regional scene. I'm not going to take those shots if I don't have to. I'm going to keep doing me. So I definitely can strike. You know, I strike with a lot of the best of them. Heck, I've sparred with a lot of guys, man, and they're like, man, your striking is very much better than, you know, what people put on. You know, you're like, man, your striking is, you know, surprising. Plus, they won't be accounting for my length. You know, I have God made my body type in a weird way. So I don't know how they're going to be able to prepare for that type of thing in a sparring session, but it would be interesting to be able to fight both of those guys, man. You know, it'd be awesome one day to be able to see those guys on the higher level mantle. So I feel like I'll one day be there, and hopefully we'll fight for a title or contendership, whatever it is, man. We get paid the big bucks to do it.
I feel you're certainly on the precipice of something very big. And I wanted to give you just kind of one final question for everyone that's buying a ticket for you on August 4th. Actually, let me pause. Let me check myself real quick. Are you still selling tickets? And how can people buy tickets to watch you fight in Nashville?
Yes, I'm selling tickets. Yes, you can go to fightertix.com. Type fightertix. You'll see Nashville Underground. You just click on Nashville Underground. Boom, click on my name, Torrez Finney, so I can get accounted for the tickets. And tickets are $40, man. And you go there, let's go, man. Come to Nashville. It's going to sell out quick. There's only going to be like 500 to 600 because I think they're trying to keep the crowd a little low because of how much of these surprise UFC guests that's supposed to be there. So everybody, definitely get your tickets in now, man. They're going to go just like that.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, for everyone who is going to be showing up to Nashville to watch you fight this guy, I know it's not always possible. You're training, you're putting the finishing touches on your camp, and you can't always go out there and talk to everybody like I know you want to. But for everybody that's coming out to watch you and who's watching this interview, what do you want all your supporters to know ahead of the fight?
I want to let everybody know that thank you very much for all the support. That's one of the main things that I feel like we have here at Agoge is an incredible support from everyone. People support it. We all support each other, whether it's debuting amateur to a Trevor Peak. I swear to you, man, we had about 200 people from here to the gym. Like we all went. Man, it was what a supporting crew, man, when he fought in Jacksonville. So we all give that support to all of our fighters. And man, I just love the support that everybody brings me. Not only that, my family, my sponsors, Robert White and Johnny Jones, those two guys right there, man, they're very helpful into my entire MMA career so far. Me and Trevor's, man, they help us out a lot. Man, it's just been a really good journey, man. I will say when I graduated college, I never thought I would ever be fighting MMA. And now thinking into it, I haven't worked a job in like 2 years, so like I've just been full-time MMA, just been full-time training, and it's been a blessing ever since, man. And if I enjoy it, I live here at the gym, I fight full-time. My room is pretty nice, so like I got a washer and dryer, my own bathroom, everything, and I chill here. I got my TV, my PS5, so it's a chill place, man. We train, we get after it, train 2 to 3 times every single day. And we chill, man. And that's the good thing about the camaraderie we have here. We'll punch each other in the face, blood everywhere. We're going at each other hard. And then go out to eat and eat some tacos or something, So we have fun, man. I really enjoy the community we have here at Agoge.
Well, I really enjoyed you being on my show this afternoon, sir. And I wish you the best of luck on August 4th. Make sure you buy your tickets. And 6-0, before we're getting ready to make this UFC walk out for the first time. I hope you come back, and I hope we do it again, my friend.
Yes, sir. We definitely will do it again. Thank you so much.